Wow! It's 2 minutes to late night!
What's up, Stroop Waffles? Welcome to Pod Minutes to Cast Night. It's a podcast where the 2 Minutes to Late Night Writers Room usually listens to a bad album and tries to find something good about it. But guess what? It's 2019 now. It's a whole new year, and we've listened to like 27 awful albums. And we're going to try something a little different on this episode. We're going to listen to an album that most of us really love, but one of us hates. Before we get in there, let's introduce the writers' room.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Hammond, and I'm really mad.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Lucy Steiner, and I have the hickety-hubs, but I'm going to try to tone it down.
Hickety-hubs!
Hey, I'm Drew Kaufman, and I bought 80 pounds of cat litter today, and when I went to the register, the guy was like, wow, that's a lot of cat litter, and I said, yeah, my cats love to shit.
And I'm Jordan Olds, and I still have my Christmas tree up, not because I love Christmas, but it's just where my Sailor Moon wig goes now. That's just what's going on with that. Did anybody listen to anything they liked this week? God damn it, I hate that I asked that question. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jeremy.
What did I listen to this week?
Oh, no. What did we just listen to?
Oh my God, yeah, the 9/11 song.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 9/11 Tower 7.
There's no way that's not your favorite song in the world now.
Honestly, it's my favorite song of the week at the very least. Drew, what's the artist's name?
Martin Noakes.
Martin Noakes. Folks, go on YouTube, look up 9/11 Tower 7 by the artist Martin Noakes. That's Noakes.
It is a terribly catchy song.
It's a horribly catchy song, but here's the thing. Don't do it, because that's what he wants.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Martin wants.
And it's what I
Don't
want.
support it.
No.
And you don't want to fulfill either of our
But
desires.
feel free to watch his several videos about beekeeping. Those are great.
Support
and that's not
the
a bit. He
beekeeping.
really has videos of beekeeping.
Support his healthier habits.
Yeah. No, I really like that he wants to save bees and take care of bees.
Actually, beekeepers kill a lot of bees, usually.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
That's a big part of being a beekeeper. Yeah, you kill bees.
You gotta genocide
They
bees.
call it, when they do it, they call it taking care of beesness.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
Oh, my God.
Fuck you.
No, every honeycomb for a beekeeper is
I don't
just...
even want to laugh at that. I'm not even going to give it to you. I
Every
really like a bee joke, but you don't get that one.
Oh, shit.
They really kill bees?
Oh, yeah, every honeycomb for a beekeeper is just a genocide.
Why? Why do they kill the bees? Do they
What's the
have to?
fucking point?
Well, it's ethnically motivated.
That's all we know at this point.
Oh, my God.
So all
But no,
beekeepers
Lucy,
are like
I really want to
tiny
know why the
little
bees
9/11s.
die.
But yeah, I mean, I've just read, maybe I'm just slandering beekeepers right now, but I've read that just in the process of getting the honey, you have to kill a lot of bees.
Yeah, folks at home, let us know if they actually kill bees to make honey. Vegans, I expect you probably know a lot about this. I know that's a big...
And I'm sure you want to talk about it.
Well, no, I know it's a major issue among vegans is whether or not honey counts as a vegan thing.
How
or
about
not.
beekeepers, defend yourself? I know you're out there. I know you're listening.
We're going to get a comment on this episode that's just the one guy. We're going to be like, oh my God, this guy was a beekeeper this whole time.
It's going to be like one fan and 11 angry beekeepers.
It's going to be steak and titties.
Steak and titties. No, it's going to be that. It's going to be the one guy who just has different pictures of Matt Pike as his as his profile photo.
In the comments,
Which
gonna be,
one?
how could you be so ignorant?
Okay, Lucy,
Hey,
what did you
folks.
listen to?
I
You tired of going to the bee office?
I kind
Genocide.
of... I want to...
Click the B at the top of the corner.
I'm glad I don't remember the album name or the band name because I kind of want to talk about it because it was a metal album I listened to, but by accident. But I kind of don't want to talk about it because it might be a Nazi band. But I'm not sure.
What was the
What's
band?
happening to this podcast?
But I did like one song. It was the only song I listened to. There was no Nazi stuff in it.
Was it Carnivore?
It was something called Black Magic SS.
Ooh, well, SS is usually a good.
It's a good giveaway, right? But
Yeah, unless it's a Doctor Strange comic.
yes.
Stephen Strange.
Oh no,
SS is
because
bad.
no, it definitely isn't because
No, the SS stands for super silly.
super silly.
Oh boy.
No, but my boyfriend's friend showed it to us. And he was like, they have a lot of swastikas on their album covers, but it's a joke. And we were like, we're not sure that it is.
Yeah. That's the same spiel that people.
No, but the thing that you forget about is swastikas is kind of like dicks, where it's like if you see one, it's offensive, and if you see like 7, it's funny.
Or an Indiana Jones movie.
We can cut this whole thing. It's fine.
Oh my God.
I am cutting none of this.
Drew, what did you listen to?
Well, since we're talking about 9/11 and Nazis and shitting on vegans, I guess the only logical thing to bring up is that I listened to Gold Cobra by Limp Bizkit.
What'd you think?
It fucking sucks.
Is that the
Yeah.
one with Ready to Go on it?
It's the one with the song that's like, you're a douchebag, and the whole song is screaming, you're a douchebag, over and over again.
Well, that certainly sounds right.
Yeah.
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 But there is one song that I thought was really fucking cool. Yeah, there's a song called Get a Life, and it's like, it sounds like a cross between Limp Bizkit and RX Bandits, and it's only for me, but I liked it. I thought it was really cool.
Cool.
But there's also a song about just being bored with a shotgun, and Fred Durst is like, you know what you do when you're bored with a shotgun? And I'm like, no, I don't know what you do.
Literally
but there is a
have
song at the
no
end of this
idea.
album about Kurt Cobain, so maybe you're implying that I should kill myself.
Here's the thing. You can write a song about Kurt Cobain killing himself, but he 100% didn't kill himself because he was bored. That is not why that happened.
No, Courtney Love killed him.
Jeremy,
How many conspiracy
Jeremy.
theories can we squeeze into one introduction?
to just get us out of this whole... I'm sorry, this was a lot. You guys piled so much on me in the first 3 minutes of this. I listened to Susie and the Banshees really genuinely for the first time. I've always like heard songs from them. They're great. I like them.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, they rip.
They
It's
rip.
nice that there was just something nice.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of this part, and you guys never do it. You never do it. I'm always like, did you hear something nice? And Jeremy's like, I watched an anime where I saw a shark eat an octopus's dick. It was also a racist octopus, so it was okay.
Well, to be fair, Susie and the Banshees killed JFK, so like, it's not that nice.
Second shooter in the Banshees.
Look
my
into the
God.
Banshee Bird group.
I fucking hate you guys. All right, let's get into it.
Folks, we have a Patreon if you'd like to stop giving us money.
God. All right. So this week, since it's the new year, we want to switch up the podcast just a little bit, so we're not just. I mean, there's not a lot of bad albums we can do. We want to like space them out a little bit. So now we're still gonna argue because we're just picking albums that just one of us really doesn't like. And this week, what it's gonna be is 1984 by Van Halen, which is an album that me and Drew just love passionately. Also, most of America loves a lot. It's one of the best-selling albums of all time. Jeremy, you are not a Van Halen fan.
Yeah, I want to make it clear that it's, although the premise of this is going to be an album that one of us hates, I want to make it extremely clear I do not hate this album. I hate Van Halen. It has nothing to do with this album in particular. I hate all Van Halen just as much as I hate this album.
That is very strange because I listened to this album and I was like, there might be shit on here based on what you like that I figured you would enjoy. But yeah, I guess
I have some nice things to say. I did come out of this with nice things to say,
Okay.
but I think on the whole, I think about 95% of this album is trash.
Okay, Lucy.
What did I think of it?
Yeah, or I guess let's still do the whole bit. How do you think
why
this
not?
album happened?
I'm pretty sure that every one of my friends' dads who I've ever known has probably had a hand in it. And I'm sure I'm biased by age in that regard, but like it just feels like, what if you were in a frat in the 70s and you decided to make a band and make it out? The whole thing feels very like, I have an opinion about what's good and what's bad about it, but
You know
like...
what? Sorry to interrupt
yeah.
you. It's like, this is what I imagine like people who became fathers at 18 listen to when they're college age. Because you're a dad, but you're also in college.
That sounds right. Like, I mean, I can't get away from the fact that it's like, as bad as everything we've listened to thus far on this podcast has been, like, I think this might be like the douchiest album we've listened to. Like, there are parts I really like about it, but I can't get away from the fact that it just, the whole thing, on a whole, it feels, the essence is douchey.
Douchey album.
But there are songs that I love songs on it.
And for the most part, I feel that the parts that are turnoffs to it are because of other songs that we've heard that sound like this. The familiarity of it leaves a bad taste in people's mouths, but you have to remember that literally nothing sounded like this before this.
I mean, I bet in 1984, when I assume this album came out, did it come out in 1984?
Literally came out.
It
It'd be
did, yeah.
so weird if it did.
It would be completely normal if it didn't, because it's a book, and that didn't come out in 1984.
But it would be so weird if that was their commentary on 1984.
Right. Which it so clearly is not.
I can confirm that no one in Van Halen has ever read a book.
Yeah, it's never... Book reading was not a part of it.
I don't think they've even heard of a book.
Yeah.
But I guess, like, I could imagine in 1984 hearing a synth like this and being like, fuck, dude, wow. But it's like, unfortunately, I have, several decades of music history now past this, and the synth just sounds like an aerobics class.
Yeah. Well, Drew, what do you...
Well, I mean, the whole thing that we've kind of like hammered in is that just because something is the first doesn't mean it's good. So
Right.
I won't say that. But what I will say about this that's so interesting is that this album was like, Van Halen, they put out their first album, they were just kids. And I think the first one came out 78 maybe, or
Yeah,
77, 76, something like that.
They were a band. They had been a band since like 1974.
So when the first
this
album
was
came
10
out,
years
they were
since they were
huge,
big, yeah.
and nobody shredded like that. And like they were kind of like they call it the Van Halen effect. It literally is the reason why you have like your Rats and your other 80s bands that are just okay, but for some reason every solo has to like sound like a computer jerking off. Mm-hmm. And they made this album, that first one, blew up, toured the world, made a second one, it was okay, made a third and a fourth, no one cared about it. They made a fifth album that was like half covers, half original, because they thought that they weren't going to sell this album. And then they made this album, which was Eddie being like, hey, I want to do synth stuff, so we have to do at least half synth. So he got his way. Album is huge, sells out, it gets like diamond status in sales. And then David Lee Roth is either kicked out or leaves the band like 6 months into touring, probably their best album that they've ever done. It's crazy.
I love this album. I think their first album is the best.
It's got Eruption on it. The Eruption is the shit. The Eruption it's cool. It's the coolest thing they did.
You've never like listened to On Fire or anything.
No.
On Fire is the coolest fucking Van Halen song of
Yeah.
all time.
Is that
Eruption
also
is
on the
like
first
the
one?
Unbelievable.
twist
It's a
of
fucking
dad
ripper.
metal.
Is it on the first one also?
Yeah, it's the last song.
Oh, we should have listened to the first one then.
I mean, but Drew wanted to do this one.
I thought that this would be a good one to start with because it's kind of the most famous one, and that's why I think it could be really interesting to talk about. Is
Yeah,
because like
Can
This-
I ask
yeah,
a
sorry.
question?
half the songs on this album are singles.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There are a lot of singles.
No,
on
they're
this.
not.
A lot
There's
of singles.
two.
What?
There's three. There's only three singles.
Was it
Jump, Hot for Teacher,
Panama? Hot for Teacher. Yeah,
Those
three.
are the biggest singles of their career.
They also did one other song though that was huge, and no one remembers this, but "I'll Wait" was huge, and it was co-written by.
Oh, you're
Michael
right.
I liked
McDonald.
I'll Wait a lot.
It was co-written by Michael McDonald.
That makes
Yeah.
so much sense.
They were
does
having
make
trouble writing the
sense.
song about how they were in love with a girl in an advertisement. So Michael McDonald came in and was like, "I'll show you guys real love."
Wait, I actually did not know that.
Oh yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
I
I
like
know-
that song.
Yeah, sorry, Lucy. What were you saying?
Yeah, I had a question because I don't know anything about like post-production and music or anything like that, like putting an album together after it's been recorded in the studio. But like, is the mixing on this album shitty? Because like I felt like every song I was like, I can't hear it. I can't hear what's happening in the song.
It's
Like,
true.
I-
The synth really feels like it's like it. When you said like this was about Eddie wanting to play the synth, that makes so much sense to me because it does feel like the synth is just the king of the band in this. Like the synth is the most important thing in every song,
It
and
feels
it's
like everything is drowning in the synth.
yeah, which is wild because the synth is terrible. The sound of it is so bad.
Well, there's only 3 songs that have synth. There's the intro track, there's Jump, and then there's I'll Wait.
Yeah, and Jump, it's like I like the din 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 din. Like that's awesome. I love that opening. But then it's like once he starts singing, I'm like, these lyrics are cool. The whole concept of the
so
song is
weird.
cool.
Yeah.
But like everything's drowning. It's all like I feel like it all gets like weirdly lost.
Yeah.
Well,
In, like,
all the lyrics
the-
are really weird because every song on this album is either about a woman they've never met that they're in love with or a car.
Okay, yeah.
I'm cool with that. Like
Well, all right, let's. I mean, I guess let's go because it's such a diverse album. Like, do you even think the synth sounds shitty on the intro track? Because I think the actual intro synth is, even though it's so fucking dated, and it just reminds me of like a laser show. Like,
Yeah,
like you're
yeah,
going
yeah.
to the planetarium. I actually think it's like kind of neat.
oh, I like the intro, yeah.
The intro track, I think, is like, it's really, I'm like, yeah, it sounds like 1984. This is when like synth is becoming a huge thing, and I think he's using the sounds appropriately. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's nothing about this that's like particular. Like, I don't go through this and think like this is inappropriate. You know, I'm not like offended by
Right,
the
yeah.
like. I'm not out here like trying to like make like a court case out of the synth use. I just think that like and correct me if I'm wrong, but the synth in Jump sounds exactly like the synth in the intro. Like it's the
different.
same. It's the same button.
No. It isn't the same because he's doing, he has like hot distorted synth on Jump, and the fucking intro is.
Oh yeah, that's right. It starts out sounding like it's gonna be like Beat It.
Yeah. Kind of, yeah.
I don't inherently have a problem with the synth. I think the synth actually adds something to a lot of the songs on the album. Like I'm not anti-synth. I just think that like at a certain point it's like there's something of like a melody happening underneath it that I feel like I can't hear. Like I feel like
Yeah.
I'm deaf listening to it sometimes.
It's funny that you think that the mixing on it is bad because in a weird way, the reason why I really like this album and I like it more than the first album is I feel like it's super polished. And to me, it's like, of course they broke up after this because this is like the convergence of all of their skills into one thing, which is that Eddie is going to shred, but he is resilient to shred. So he wants to do synth. So he's not just a guitarist. And David Lee Roth is completely off the rails, coked out of his mind, just screaming about like women in magazines. Literally, like the first thing in Jump he does is scream at the top of his lungs. And then Alex is going bananas with the double kick pedal. And then Michael Anthony's there.
Well, I think maybe what's feeling alarming about it is they are replacing is because on a lot of when there's synth there isn't guitar. That's what you have to. That's what I think is the alarming thing about it is they are trying to replace the guitar with a synth.
That makes so much sense because I honestly thought there was a guitar underneath it that I couldn't hear.
Yeah, there is at times on
Yeah.
Jump like and it's weird because in the music video he's like pretending to play guitar. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, right? Am I right? In the music video for Jump,
yeah.
Eddie Van Halen isn't playing the synth.
Well, if you watch it live, like if you watch like old live videos, whenever they play those songs, he just stops playing guitar and plays synth. Like he wasn't like,
Yeah.
any other band who would be like, all right, well, we got to get a traveling synth player and give them like a little bit of money and some chicken. He
Yeah.
just straight up just doesn't play guitar.
Speaking of pretending to play instruments, did anybody watch any of the New Year's Eve TV show, whatever they call it, the New Year's Rockin' Eve?
No.
No.
I watched a little bit of it the other day just because I heard Weezer played, and I was like, well, what the fuck was that like, right? And I watched some of the acts, and I don't know any of them. I don't know anything about them. But apparently it is crucial that if you are playing at New Year's Rockin' Eve, you have to at least appear as though you have a band. And all of these like solo artists, like hip-hop, R&B artists, pop artists, who are clearly singing over a synth and an electric drum, have these people behind them just pantomiming playing instruments. And it is the strangest thing I've ever seen to hear like a very clearly synth and electric drum driven song and then a man with an acoustic guitar behind them just fucking strumming nothing chords.
And it's all because of Van Halen.
Yeah.
It's all because of Van Halen.
Well, you know why that video is that? Because that video was directed by David Lee Roth, and he just wanted people. He just wanted people to like thrust their dicks at the camera. There's like a shot of them just like scooting their dicks forward, and you can't do that if you're playing keyboard.
No, I have a feeling about. I have an intuition about this album, which is that it's very bad. My initial reaction to it was that it's very bad for the first half. And then from Hot for Teacher on, it's very good.
You don't like
that's
Panama?
really interesting.
I agree with you.
Panama's the
Hot for
biggest-
Teacher on is when the album starts to actually pick up steam a little bit.
Yeah.
I think before
Like
that,
Girls Gone Bad is great.
Yeah, that song. That was the one I thought that like would turn Jeremy around because I was like, this is
that's one of the
like,
two that I wrote down I liked.
Yeah, because it's like a fucking Primus song.
It's a mess, and I love it.
Yeah, but it's a genius. It's like that's what Eddie wanted to write on this album if he had a guitar. And he was battling with the producer constantly who was just like, fucking write the shit that you guys always do. You guys have been veering off on all your middle albums. Like, give me one of your hits on this. It's weird because, yeah, like Panama and even Jump are so in the Van Halen formula of song. Like, even though Jump is a departure from... It's so weird that that's one of their biggest songs because it doesn't have a guitar on it and the band is named after the guitarist because of the way he played guitar.
Right.
And I like those songs because they feel familiar. Honestly, I grew up hating Jump.
I still hate Jump. Listening to it today, I was like doing chores today before I came over here and just listening to the album, and my fiance Mo, she keeps walking past me as I'm like listening to this album and just seeing me sitting there just like, the fuck, just every part of it. She just keeps being like, well, you're not having fun? I'm like, no, I'm not having fun.
Of course,
And she's like dancing to it and having a great time. And I'm like, that looks like fun. But this honestly makes me so upset.
Why? Well, why? I guess why? Why does it bum you out so much?
I explored it a little bit. And what I uncovered is, aside from like, I have various critiques of this album overall, but I did uncover a weird traumatic childhood memory associated with Jump. If you'll all indulge me.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
This was around 2002 or 2003. I was just starting to get into like playing music, and I just started playing the drums, in fact. And I wasn't very good at it yet. I was just kind of starting to pick it up and whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was at an arcade. And you remember at arcades, they would have those games where it was like an electric drum kit and there was like a screen in front of you. And you would you would play like a hit song and then you would play along to it. Do you know what I'm talking about? Did you guys ever see those?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you would play along to it. And that's all it was. There's no like tickets or anything that are coming out. But it's just a fun little game, right?
Drum Hero.
It wasn't Drum Hero, but it was a similar type of concept.
It was like
I didn't even know it
pre-Heroes,
existed.
but it was,
I
I know
just-
exactly. I did that too.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm at one of those machines and I'm playing a Green Day song and I'm like tapping along to it, not doing a great job, and I'm like a little bit embarrassed because like my dad and my brother are behind me and like all these people are waiting to do it and I'm like clearly not very good at it. Mm-hmm. And then I get out and then this guy comes in behind me and he plays Jump, and he just fucking whatever the drum equivalent of shredding is. I don't know what it is. Is it still shredding?
Yeah.
So he fucking
Shredding is a gender neutral term.
Yeah. It's a surfing term when you're good at surfing, and they applied it to instruments.
So this guy fucking shreds the shit out of it. And people behind, I'm not even exaggerating, people clap. People clap at how good he did Jump.
But you didn't. So this is the moment, I think, that you went from appreciating musical talent because you were angry at talent. So this is what drove you to only appreciating punk, because it's really funny that, because one of my like earliest memories is all of the bands that you love talking about how much they love David Lee Roth Van Halen.
Uh-huh.
Like, I remember vividly watching like VH1 and seeing like Henry Rollins going like, man, David Lee Roth, and like just punks.
You know, he's got.
But he also
straight
likes
up
Ted Nugent, to be fair.
Right, but
Henry Rollins has so many crazy stories about David Lee Roth, by
Yeah.
the way. You should, people at home, look him up, because there's some crazy stories about him, and they're so funny.
There's no tame story about David Lee Roth. David Lee Roth got Ozzy Osbourne kicked out of Black Sabbath.
What?
Oh, yeah. So the first tour of Van Halen's like first world tour, they were supporting Black Sabbath. And at the time, like, Black Sabbath hadn't done a good album in a while. And also Ozzy was really getting into drugs, like really heavy into drugs. And David Lee Roth and Ozzy Osbourne basically had a contest to see who could do more cocaine. And there was like a 5-year difference between them in age, but those are like your peak cocaine years. And David Lee Roth just floored Ozzy with coke, and Ozzy couldn't keep up. And it was like that tour that everybody was like, "Oh, you're a maniac," and they kicked him out.
yeah.
Fuck.
Ozzy's great, by the way. I just saw Ozzy 2 days ago. I probably should have brought this up earlier, but Ozzy's so good still for a 70-year-old man who shakes like a vacuum cleaner full of marbles. He's amazing.
Yeah. It's still, it's incredible that he can still do that.
Oh, quick aside. Also saw Rob Zombie. Holy shit, Rob Zombie has the best ass in metal. He came out in like this rhinestone jumpsuit. Like he looked like a cross, like below the neck Elvis Stoico and above the neck Captain Jack Sparrow. And I would like, he was doing like squats and kicks and all this stuff in his crazy outfit. And like I would look down at my phone, I'd look back up, and he'd be facing me. He'd be facing the opposite side, and I was just like, "Who's that beautiful woman on stage?" And then he'd turn around, and it was Rob Zombie. I did that 3 times. I legitimately thought he had like a backup dancer. Great ass on that guy.
Guys, veganism. You can look great in a jumpsuit and save the bees.
Is Rob
Zombie vegan?
Dude, that's like his whole thing.
No, his whole thing is horror movies.
Yeah,
No, but literally, it's also like veganism. Like he's a hard vegan.
Oh yeah, that's what Living Dead Girl's about.
He vegans hard.
I was trying to think of a vegetable that had the same syllables as Dragula. You beat me to it.
Dry in the back of my broccoli.
Yeah, something like that.
He's like a weird symbol for veganism, just because like it's like usually you associate like, wow, look how young and healthy he looks.
Yeah.
But you're like, this guy looks like an old tree. But then you realize, oh wait, he's always looks like an old tree. So he technically hasn't aged. He looks the same. He's looked the same.
Much like a tree.
Much like a tree. He's Rob Zombie and trees have looked the same since 1992.
But back to Van Halen.
Back to Van Halen.
Okay. So I tried to listen to this with like a critical ear and see what new things I could find. Like what were your guys' favorite songs?
I'm kind of torn between Hot for Teacher and Girl Gone Bad. Although
Ooh.
I will say, Hot for Teacher, I feel has kind of been ruined for me a little bit, because I actually think that the Mutoid Man Gene Gleason version is better than the Van Halen version.
I love New Toy Man's version.
I genuinely like do not care for this version of it now. And I think it might just be because like the production is like old and thin and weird, and maybe it's that.
Well, the
but,
riff
like,
is different.
The riff is different.
We wrote a different riff for it. Like it's a little different, but Gene is just playing. The solo is the same.
No,
but
it's
it's
different.
like
she adds like
louder and
weird
thicker,
little
I
flares in.
guess.
It's really cool.
She adds a little flair. Yeah, but it's essentially like I was surprised when she like showed up and she was like adding. She like essentially did the original. So like the scales are the same, but she's doing.
You know what, ironically, is my favorite part of the Mutoid Man version? The keys. I like the keyboard. It adds a little
Yeah.
chutzpah. I love it.
Yeah.
And these fools didn't
exactly.
put a keyboard on theirs.
It's
'Cause
louder.
They
gotta
had
be
it
one
there.
person.
They had it. They could have done it.
I feel like this is like my entire gripe with this entire album. It just needs to be louder. You got to turn the volume up.
On everything but the synth.
I can't hear it.
The synth feels full and right,
Yeah.
and then everything else feels really wimpy.
It feels like such a weird issue to have with an album, but I oddly have it with a lot of albums. Like I just feel like this isn't loud enough.
Lucy, you might just have a hearing problem.
I might genuinely have a hearing problem.
Yeah, this might be just that. We gotta get you earplugs so you can stop. You can leave your ears alone. Because I think it's mixed. Really, I mean, I listen to it on vinyl, so I don't know. I don't really know what the spot. I mean, I know when I'm rehearsing Van Halen songs and stuff, I'm listening to them on Spotify, and it's a class. They have such a classic panning of like how to separate the instruments. Like the guitar is at the bottom of one ear.
Oh yeah, I had a joke about this that I tried to get on the Hard Times for a long time, and I could never get the phrasing right. But I thought it'd be really funny, the idea of somebody who, like, you know how when you're at your office and you like listen to music with one ear pod in. Mm-hmm. I thought it'd be funny if like somebody only heard Van Halen that way, and so their whole life they just thought that they didn't have a guitar.
I mean, the worst song on the album is Top Jimmy.
Top Jimmy.
Fucking
I love
sucks.
Top Jimmy.
Top Jimmy, I hate it. I think I hate it because I'm so close to liking it, but I just want to hear Elton John play it.
You know what it is? Van Halen should not. It's just so not a them song, or it's just the trope of like, I hate any song where it's like, listen how fucking cool this guy is, or like it's like a song where they like talk about someone who they don't really introduce. They talk about just all of the positives of one person. Like, Top Jimmy rules. He'll fuck your dad. Like you can do that, or if like a song is like telling you about a dance, but it's not telling you how to do the dance. I don't like that song. I don't like. If you're like, do the mashed potato, okay, but what does that mean?
What does that mean?
This is an audible medium. I don't know what you're saying.
Give me the cha-cha slide, you shit.
Yeah, I want that.
When I was a kid, I thought the electric slide was about a slide that was electric that you go down and it shocks you, like almost like a cross between the electric chair and one of those like Uncle Fester games that they had at the movie theater where you have to hold on to it and it shocks you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a dance until like maybe right now.
Okay.
And similarly, they don't tell you how to do the electric slide in that song.
I get what they were trying to do with Top Jimmy. Like he was like, I want to just kind of want to play like some bluesy guitar, but I was just like, fucking turn your distortion on, you idiot. This is ridiculous.
You want to hear my my Van Halen fan fiction?
Yeah.
Okay, so redo the album, move Drop Dead Legs in between Girl Gone Bad and House of Pain. That way the double bass pedal at the end of Top Jimmy goes right into Hot for Teacher, and you will suddenly love that song.
What?
You'll love Top Jimmy, because it's like, then it feels like it's the intro to Hot for Teacher. Maybe Jimmy's the one who's hot for teacher.
I don't hate Top Jimmy. I just think it's like, it features no one's strength on that song.
Jimmy's strength.
But Jimmy's not in the band. I don't care who they're talking about. Top Jimmy? What the I listened to that song and I don't know who Jimmy is. I don't really care what he does. Like,
He's a ladies' man.
Yeah, he's like Leroy Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the baddest man in the goddamn top.
but everything that he says about like the only part that I like get is when he says he's got the look. I'm like, all right, yeah, he's good looking, but like I wish it was like weirder. I guess.
No,
I wish
got
it
the look
featured
means that he can, like, he looks at someone and it's his eyes. He eye fucks people.
Oh, you're right.
So he's just a creepy dude at a bar.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I just wish it was full of more David Lee Rothness in that song. I wish it was just like fucking whack because Eddie Van Halen is very skilled and talented, and David Lee Roth doesn't take anything seriously.
Right.
He's just like, I'm going to show my ass and I'm going to make bird noises, and it's funny. And the reason why that's so oddly the magic between the two of them is that because if you didn't have David Lee Roth and Van Halen, you get Steve Vai, and then it sucks. Or like an
Was
Yngwie
Steve Vai and Van Halen?
Steve Vai got really big because he was David Lee Roth's guitarist after.
Is
He
that
was
where
all shred,
Steve
no
Vai
finesse.
is from?
Steve Vai is like a student of Frank Zappa, but his first exposure to like the mainstream is he's David Lee Roth's solo guitarist for what, like 6 years?
This is all
I
very.
think then he got replaced by John Five, right?
Well, no.
Wait a
no.
second.
David Lee Roth stopped doing solo stuff for like 5 years, and was almost getting back together with Van Halen, but then he got arrested for like meth or something.
But Steve Vai was a Zappa guy?
yeah,
Yeah.
he was.
He was
You
like
didn't know?
15. He was like
15 and like
Zappa's like I think like guitar tech.
yeah, he was like Frank Zappa's. Well, no, they straight up Zappa and Steve Vai had like a Karate Kid style relationship where like Frank Zappa would be like, go up and like go get me food from McDonald's, but somehow that was a music lesson. Like, it
Yeah,
was,
right.
like- yeah,
But that's the thing is, like, I feel like everybody's Zappa story is exactly that. I feel like everybody who comes
I
out of that
know.
Zappa school,
know.
they all come out and they're like, yeah, you know, Zappa, he sent me to go make his tea, and then he was like, how did you stir it? Did you use your wrist or your fingers? And they're like, that taught me a lot about fucking shredding.
I know. But are
it's
you
like-
a Zappa person? Do you like?
Not particularly,
I don't
but I
care.
like a lot of the people who come out of the Zappa. Like, so what I was thinking
You
was
like Steve Vai?
I don't like Steve Vai, but I like Adrian Belew a lot. And it's weird
Yeah.
to me that Adrian Belew and Steve Vai are both Zappa guys, because it's like Adrian Belew is very believably a Zappa guy. Steve
Yeah.
Vai is very not.
Oh, you don't think so?
He's like a very conventional shreddy guitarist. Like I
No,
don't
he's
think
not.
he's
The
like,
whole point of Steve Vai is he's not a conventional
he does
guitarist.
like the 2-head guitar thing,
No,
and he
he-
like does a little like I don't.
That comes like Steve Vai when he's first on television is a fucking weird androgynous like virtuoso, and no
Right.
one sees it. Like you when you see Steve Vai now, where he looks like someone's mom from Arizona, it's different.
Lucy, who's your favorite guitarist?
My favorite guitarist?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I really like Leo Kottke.
I don't know who that.
I don't know who that is.
I'm sorry.
No.
What does he do?
He's like a folk. He's like a folk guitarist.
Cool.
He wrote something called "Tiny Island." Very good song.
I want to listen to
He
that.
sounds like he has like 10 little fingers.
I love
Ooh.
this. He probably has 10 fingers as he is a human being. You
Have
know,
ever
like a
listened
human
to
being.
Cocky King, speaking of that last name?
It's really fast, but not a lot of pressure.
You mean he has 10 fingers on one hand?
Yeah, 10 little fingers.
Oh, okay. I was
So it's
like,
kinda cute.
every human being has 10 fingers.
Yeah, on one hand. Oh, yeah, I should have pointed that out.
Which hand has the 10 little fingers?
He has 10 little fingers on each hand.
On both.
Yeah.
20 fingers.
20 fingers altogether.
Okay.
But they're all like but they're shy.
Yeah.
And they're tiny.
They're
The
tiny.
important thing is they're tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I listened to this album. I don't fucking love this album. I mean, I love pieces of it, but I think as an album, I can see why a lot of people like it. I see what, but I'm also like, I only really like Jump. Ironically, I don't think Jump is such a goofy fucking sounding song. Like, I think the synth is so funny. I love it. But I have to accept all of the faults of Jump. Like, it's without Eddie Van Halen's style of guitar playing, so you're just left with David Lee Roth, who is a hilarious human being, singing over just like, yeah, aerobics music.
Yeah.
which is so funny, and I love that inherently. But then the guitar solo comes out, and it might be Eddie Van Halen's like craziest guitar solo.
I mean, all the solos on this are bananas. There's no part of me that's coming into this being like, I hate Van Halen because Eddie is bad at the guitar. You know what I mean? Like, there's no part of me that is going to make that argument.
Right,
But,
of course.
It's just like so cheesy to the point of like, it makes me feel embarrassed to like hear. And if I could bring up if you'll indulge me, one very annoying point about this album, it is that Panama is about a car, and that's fucked up.
It's fucked up that it's about a car.
It's fucked up that it's about a car. This planet is fucking... We have 10 years to figure this out.
Jeremy,
we have 10 years.
Wow.
And you know
Wait,
what? You know
want to hate
Jeremy,
it even more,
you love
Jeremy?
trains and you eat steak all the time.
You know what? The Van Halen brothers are from a transit-oriented city. They should know better.
Do you know the car sound in the middle of Panama?
Oh, yeah, I know.
That-
It's a real car, and I'm pissed.
Not only is it a real car, it was Eddie Van Halen's Ferrari.
Yeah, and
it was his car that was very.
I was
more
watching
expensive than
the
anything you'll ever
annotated
own.
thing on Spotify as it was going past, and they said it took like a lot of takes. Like they were sure to point out he burnt oil for a long time.
And of course, drop dead legs offensive to anyone who might have dropped dead because of their legs.
I was kicked to death as a child.
I have a history of loving songs about cars.
Really?
Grease
Yeah?
Lightning. Love that song.
Yeah. Although Grease
Little
Lightning-
Deuce Coupe.
Important note about Grease Lightning: when they're singing the song in the movie, the car doesn't work yet, so it's not yet terrible.
Also, huge difference between Grease Lightning and Panama is that Zuko isn't trying to fuck his car.
Yeah. But
Also, it is sort of implied that Grease Lightning is an electric car, right?
you know what? Counterpoint, Jeremy. Counterpoint. I definitely know David Lee Roth cannot read. I have seen David Lee Roth drive a boat in a music video. I have seen him run on the street. I've seen him hold a surfboard. I have seen him sit on a car. I have never seen him drive a car. I don't think he can do it.
He drives an ice cream truck in the California Girls music video, but that's after Van Halen. So he might have learned to drive in between bands.
Yeah, he drives the bus in Hot for Teacher, but it's very clearly a different shot. I think so.
he has
That's
a lot
why
of
I say
jobs.
he can sit. He can sit in a car. I don't think he knows how to drive. I don't think any cars were harmed. I just think except for. Actually, it might be awful because we don't know if a car can give consent or not.
Yeah,
I would
they do.
argue
They give
a
little
car
peep
cannot
peep for a
give
yes,
consent.
and if it's a
He's
no,
very
it's like a little
clear.
sputter.
Actually, you know what? He and Eddie Van Halen's Ferrari are clearly having a dialogue, and the car is clearly accepting all of his requests. It's a consensual car-to-person sex scene in the bridge of that song. Also, you don't think Panama's fun, either of you? Like, we gotta get into it. Like, none of this is fun.
I thought it was actually I thought it was one of the more boring
Yeah.
songs on the album.
Really?
Yeah. And I was excited for it because it was about a car.
I was excited for it because you guys talk about it all the time. And I was like, in my head, I think I realized also as I was listening to this that I don't totally know what Van Halen sounds like anymore because I just make fun of them in my head so much. And like, I've just like reimagined how Panama sounds into being sort of like that Guns N' Roses ballad from Chinese Democracy.
What?
The Bond song.
If the world.
If the world, yeah. I just picture it being Panama instead. I think that's how I sing it in my head when I think about Panama. And then I heard this song and I was like, oh no, it's that song. Oh no, I don't like that song.
Well, that's the thing is, like, Panama's so big that everyone wanted to write Panama after that.
Right.
So, again, when you're hearing Panama, like, it has, like, the 80s, the super hair metal intro, like the bam, 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 like, that is the most classic. That's also what Eddie didn't really want to write. on this album is he's like, I don't really feel like doing that. And they were like, you should. But the main
You also
riff,
have the big, like, the chorus is a giant group yell of them shouting Panama.
Yeah,
And if
you don't think
know
that
it's about a
rules?
car, you have
That's
no
like a-
fucking idea what's going
They're
on.
not. It's not a group yell. It's a group sing, and it's weird.
It's kind of yelly.
it's like a hardcore song.
It's not like a hardcore
I
song.
think it is.
Van Halen is a youth crew.
Yeah, Van Halen. Here's the thing.
Oh yeah,
It
I
has
like
the
the
same
chorus.
rhythms. It has the same rhythms as "Set It Off" by Madball. There's a riff.
Coincidence? I think so.
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know. Like you don't.
No, I actually do like the chorus of Panama,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It felt like a lot of work to
To
get
get
to
there?
the good stuff. To get to the Robin Williams' wife's farts, it took a lot of work.
The real heart of this entire thing was, I think, when you brought up that you were disappointed that you were mad at the guy kicking ass at the arcade.
Yeah.
About it. And then I brought up that, like, it seemed to, like, fuel this spirit of like punk music in you, but also all of your favorite punk bands love this band.
Right.
Because there is something, because what you see as a polished, like served up on a platter product isn't really that. Like,
Yeah.
they're a messy fucking band.
Well, and weirdly enough, I think that the cover art kind of speaks to that a little bit, because like what I was thinking when I was looking at the cover, because the cover art, for those at home who don't know, it's what is it, like, it's a little angel baby smoking a cigarette,
Yeah.
right? And for some reason, there's 2 packs. I don't know what that's about, but
Gonna smoke another pack.
gonna smoke a second pack. But
His
it's a
dad
different
is
brand.
actually punishing him.
Right.
Different brand, not realistic. But anyways, there's this baby that's smoking a cigarette, and I was looking at it, I was like, man, in the 80s, that must have been fucking twisted. Like, people must have looked at that and been like, what the fuck? Did they seriously put a fucking smoking baby on the cover? And I bet that, like, for guys like Henry Rollins and for, like, whoever else, I mean, loved Van Halen, who I end up loving, like, I bet for them hearing this, they were like, this is fucking nuts. You know, like, maybe not this one as much as Van Halen 1, but overall Van Halen, I mean, like, I could see how people freaked out about this. But I think it comes back to something that we've talked about a lot on the podcast, which is that if something's the first, it doesn't make it good. And that ultimately, like, if you have the context of a lot of other stuff, coming back to something that was the first is always going to be weird.
Well, I think it's also just they don't sound like the first of something, though, because the whole point of the band, like how they started, is they were a band called Mammoth when they first started, and they didn't have David Lee Roth, and like it was just Alex and Eddie trying to be able to play their original music at clubs.
Do you think Mastodon is a reference to Mammoth?
No, I don't. But they didn't. But the thing is they were trying to play in clubs, and everyone was like club owners were like, now you got to do covers. No one wants to hear your shit, so they would play covers, but they would like set them on fire. Like that was their whole vibe, is they were like playing it like crazy and trying to get people to pay attention to how just like nuts the guitar sounds. It's weird that when you hear it, like, you can't not hear just like Motley Crue and Rat.
Right.
That's just what you hear. You don't hear somebody setting Eric Clapton on fire, because that's what the band really is like. That's why they have a song called like Atomic Punk, because they were punk. Like, this is the difference. It's like how you like the Clash probably, and I also don't really get the Clash. I've even done what Drew did, where he listened to London Calling and still just didn't get it.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess it's all kind of perspective, but it's weird that all the reasons you don't like this band are the reasons that this band is different, I think.
Yeah. And it's
Is
also
that
the
they're
reasons
not polished.
It's the reasons why this band is successful, and it's the reasons why people love them is the reasons why I don't like them. And that kind of probably speaks to why punk overall has not been able to reach the heights of just kind of like of that era of heavy metal. You know, like what Van Halen was able to spawn, like the 1980s like heavy metal sound boom, is so much bigger than anything that punk was ever able to attain, you know? And I think that maybe that kind of speaks to it, is that punk is antithetical to this in some ways.
Well, no, actually, I disagree with the statement that the reasons that you don't like it or is why I like it. I like Van Halen because it isn't polished. I like that it sounds like a classic rock song, but it's fucking messy, but it sounds beautiful at the same time. Like, Eddie's guitar is too distorted.
Right.
His fucking guitar has wires pouring out of it. He just filled it with shit, and like he was constantly changing it, slapping different necks on it. Like, his guitar is a mess all of the time. It's got like a light bulb on it that's falling apart for no fucking reason. Like, look at his guitars; they're disgusting.
There's a light bulb on it?
Yeah, or it has like a reflector and like. And shit, it's a disgusting mess of a thing.
Yeah.
It's full of cigarettes. Like, he'll be smoking a cigarette and then put it in the guitar, and then it burns the guitar. Like, that's what Van Halen is they're so good at not being a mainstream thing that it doesn't fucking, like, because they were a bunch of talented punks that got asked to be like a classic rock cover band, they morphed into this thing that was just like really just is punk rock. It's the concept of both of the things existing simultaneously.
Is it like, would you say that David Lee Roth is almost like the odd man out in the band?
Yeah, 100%. That's
like,
why,
aside from like the tension between them obviously and like the creative control and all that, but
right.
like rather that like the rest of these guys are sort of these like weird, freaky, like Dutch dudes who burn their guitars and shit, and then David Lee Roth is like so in love with their success.
No, I think it's different because I think everything that you don't like about the band is because of how polished they are as a band.
I think what I'm realizing is that I might just not like David Lee Roth. I think maybe that's what the problem is.
No,
maybe
that
that's
makes even less sense.
That
to me.
makes the least amount of sense because
Yeah.
when they get Sammy Hagar, they become everything that you're saying that you don't like.
I'm gonna listen to for the next episode. I'm gonna listen to a Sammy Hagar Van Halen.
No,
and I'm
because
gonna
now,
report back.
because you are going to report back and say that you like it because it's the antithesis of what we're talking about.
I always thought
Because
that
you don't know. Because no, here it is. No, fuck this. Because you don't like it just because it's popular. That's the only fucking reason you don't like it. Because everything that I'm talking about, is not a part of anything that you're processing. You just want it to not be cool so that you can like it.
For those at home, Jordan is sitting on top of his couch so that he can have the high ground.
I have to. Well,
Yeah, he's
because it's
crouched.
I don't think that's
Because
fair because I
your
like
remarks-
Guns N' Roses, and Guns N' Roses were like the biggest band in the world for a while, and I like Metallica, and Metallica have been the biggest band in the world for a very long time. Like, I think that it's not necessarily that they're popular. I think I genuinely just find David Lee Roth really off-putting.
That's also that could be fair.
I remember watching a music video of his once. It may have been Ice Cream Man.
Yeah.
Where I just felt like his mouth opened really wide and it made
It's
me
a big
uncomfortable.
I don't think I know what he looks like, but I feel like I could feel how wide his mouth opened.
Well, yeah,
David
'cause
Lee
it's
Roth
like,
is the most
wow,
beautiful
man.
Jewish woman you've ever seen.
But I like that he just wants to dance.
That's all he wants to do. I'm just saying, here's the thing. It might just be David Lee Roth. I'm saying in the discussion we're having, that doesn't have anything to do with he's the most unpolished part about the band. Mm-hmm. David Lee Roth is the only thing that makes them really punk. And also Eddie Van Halen's messy guitar playing, and all that changes in Van Halen when they get Sammy Hagar is the messy guitar playing goes out the door, and they get a singer who sounds exactly like the feelings you don't like from Jump, the cheesiness. Mm-hmm. That's what happens with Sammy Hagar. You just get like everything is a Rocky montage after that.
Wait, but I think this is interesting. I want to hear what Jeremy thinks about post Van Halen, David Lee Roth, and Hagar years. Because the whole thing about Van Halen is that they're crazy and they're running around and they're jumping and they're screaming. Like if you watch videos, like Eddie does splits while he solos, and he's wearing like crazy overalls while smoking 30 good cigars, you know. But then they decide that they want to kind of become like a for lack of a better term, like a normal, calm rock band. So they get Sammy Hagar, who not only can actually sing and not just scream like a bat, but he can also play guitar. So he can do like rhythm stuff while Eddie is focusing on playing the keyboard. And David Lee Roth is like, fuck that. I'm still as crazy and coked out as ever. I'm going to do more of what I've been doing. You remember how I used to spin fire? Well, now I'm going to paint my face and I'm just going to turn into a fucking witch doctor for 7 albums. And it's not good. I don't like a lot of the solo stuff they did, but I'm curious if you like it though. Because I think in theory, you should hate this, but I have a strong feeling you're gonna love this shit.
Okay, so I think that's that's my homework. That's what my homework's gonna be for the next one. I'm gonna try both. I'm gonna try some David Lee Roth. I'm gonna try some Sammy Hagar. I'm gonna see what happens.
My favorite David Lee Roth thing that he's ever done is on his solo album. He ends it with a cover of That's Life by Frank Sinatra, which is weird enough, but for some reason he does it in Spanish, a language he does not speak.
Yeah, it's so funny. That's why. I don't know. That's the best.
Maybe I've got this all backwards. Maybe I love David Lee Roth.
Yeah, dude, that's my whole thing is I love David Lee Roth. He's a fucking maniac and he just wants to have fun, but like Van Halen on his own wants to be serious.
Yeah.
He wants you to
when Sammy Hagar comes in, they start wearing like button-up shirts and they look like they all got jobs at like a golf club factory.
Van Halen without David Lee Roth to like bring out his craziness is what Van Halen 3 is. Van Halen 3 is what you get if Eddie Van Halen is left to like take shit seriously on his own after 6 years of destroying his brain with alcohol and drugs.
Oh no.
So yeah, you listen to 5150 and listen to Eat 'Em and Smile, and we'll see what happens.
Hopefully we all die.
I'm just glad. I'm just glad we got to this point where if we're leaving this with you to do homework, where you're like, I don't know. Yes, I'm happy.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm gonna find out.
I felt if you went into the Sammy Hagar listen, like with the assumption that it might be the game changer, I felt like that would cloud your whole ability to listen to it. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm almost certain I have a sneaking suspicion I'm going to come back and like neither.
Yeah, probably.
Good. I hope so. That means you're human. At least you're not fucking hating stuff for the sake of hating it. And like,
just that's fucking fine. Irony machine.
Yeah. That was the only thing. I was like, you can hate both of them, but if you come back here and hate Sammy Hagar or hate David Lee Roth and love Sammy Hagar, then nothing about you is true, and you exist purely to be a contradictory.
Is there a Sammy Hagar solo stuff?
Yeah, and it's actually pre Van Halen is pretty good. Before they meet Eddie Van Halen.
Oh no! Do I have to listen to that too?
No, you don't.
Just remember, Jeremy, that after Van Halen, David Lee Roth moved to Japan and got a lot of tattoos. So I 100% can confirm he likes anime.
He loves anime. He also made
loves trains and he loves bridges. Here's
the thing. We have to watch David Lee Roth Barbecue. We have to watch it.
It's the craziest thing. I tried to watch it once. I made it about 25 minutes in.
The thing is, we're only going to make it 15 minutes and then we're going to shut it off. But he made a whole movie art film because David Lee Roth, it was right where he definitely got busted for like trying to buy angel dust or something.
No, he was just buying weed. It's actually, he has a really funny interview with Howard Stern because he bought weed in Central Park, and at the time, like the fine, I think He's like being interviewed by Howard Stern. He's like, I bought weed, and at the time the fine was $20, and if I was walking my dog and a dog took a shit, it would have been $50. So if I was doing this for publicity, I would have taken a shit on the ground.
Yeah, the funniest thing about David Lee Roth now, for some, his entire chest is covered in tattoos. His torso is just completely tattooed. Everything that, from the t-shirt down, not tattooed.
Oh, because my man knows that that after this whole rock and roll thing runs its course, he might have to get a job at FedEx.
He's gotta get a fucking job.
Here's a weird little thing to close us out on, a funny little anecdote from my childhood. So you know how like when Sammy Hagar came in, the joke was they would call it Van Hagar. I thought that Van Morrison was an era of Van Halen. Jim Morrison sang for them.
They
That
just
would be
toted
fucking
around
awesome
Jim
with
Morrison's
Jim
dead
Morrison's
fucking body.
Oh my God, Van Morrissey. All right, plugs.
Find me on Twitter at Jeremy Thunder. Check out my other podcast, Ballin' Out Super.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the Steinbag, and you can see me on January 9th at Starliner or on January 29th at the Dan, Charles, and Joe show. It should be fun.
It's a good show.
Yes.
Hey, this is Drew Kaufman, and you can find me on Instagram at Drew Kaufman Photography. You can find me on Twitter at Diet_Hellboy. And you can probably find me alone at a hardcore show because I'm in a new city and I don't have many friends.
Woo!
Woo!
Woo! You can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Jordan Olds. I rarely use it. You can follow my dog on Instagram at Great Hambino. All right, Hot Shoes, burn down the avenue. Goodbye.
Bye.